Good morning again. Welcome back to our deliberations. Okay, now, as I said at the end of the last session, we would like to start our discussions on step 6, in the hope that we can come to an agreement on step 4 at a later stage. Okay, step 6 now. As you can see on the screen, there are 4 options mentioned there, but the order has been changed in line with what we discussed in step 4. So the first option is continue to place the element under follow-up. And the second is to remove it altogether as requested by the state party in certain cases, and in certain cases against the wishes of the third party concerned. But in any case, remove is the second option. And the third option, remove, but the element will stay, is placed in the repository. And finally, of course, this time we need to have this option to maintain the element on the list. That is my view. It may be contested, that is my view. So with this draft, I would now like to open the floor for comments. Okay, Colombia, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we agree of your suggestion of to maintaining also the coherence with stage 3. But my intervention is more about the concerns of Switzerland regarding the mentions of the Article 2, or in this case, the criteria. So what I believe, and it's my proposal, and I don't know if it will be clear for Switzerland, I think in the previous evaluations, it's necessary to have a broader approach, but maybe in this particular so-called final stage, although now with the 3B part is not that final, but well, we should be able to consider Article 2 as a whole, but also in particular these 2 criteria referring to the characteristics of ICH and also to the participation of the communities. And I really believe that this proposal that the Secretariat put in place is very important to highlight those 2 criteria, which in the other cases, in the previous stages, can be covered by the Article 2, and also gives the analysis a more wider range to assess the situation. So I hope that you know, because I don't think it's incoherent if we highlight the criteria here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to encourage the Swiss delegation to comment on the points made by Colombia at an appropriate time. But at the same time, I would like to solicit views from the floor on this suggestion in step 6. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have no problem with the text in front of us. I think it covers, all our concern. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Poland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, we have a wording that says follow-up report and the recommendation. Is it not that the recommendation is part of the follow-up report? So that's the first question. And as we also want to have this reconciliatory mandatory measures, shall they not also be a part of this follow-up report? Because if we ask the body, the evaluation body, and other entities to engage into the assessment of the situation, parallelly to the assessment, they may introduce some suggestions on the measures to be taken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Curtis, any clarification?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is really, as was explained in step 5, where those discussions and dialogues and reconciliation, there is the report on that process and then the following recommendation, and that is language used in step 5, and therefore it's to include it here. So when we've done under step 5, that becomes part of a report, and the report, then there is a recommendation on the way forward. That's how it's put here. Now, the report, of course, is attached to the recommendation because the report is the justification for the recommendation. But the report might be different, written in a different way with maybe testimonies or whatever's happened during that stage 5. And then there needs to be a text for adoption, which is the recommendation in that sense, yeah. Thank you. So.
Thank you very much. Any other views? Is there anybody? Okay, well, can I ask if Switzerland wants to respond to Colombia? Or if not, that's fine. I'm not forcing anybody to speak. Okay, there is no request. Oh, yes, Switzerland, you have the floor.
Merci. Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous voyons, notre intervention préalable était vraiment sur le fait d'avoir une cohérence dans le maintien de critères et de détails, parce que pour nous, c'est de l'ordre procédural, mais nous ne voyons pas d'objection à la proposition de la Colombie. C'est simplement un souci de cohérence et de ne pas entrer dans des détails qui pourraient être problématiques pour la suite du travail. Donc, nous ne nous opposons pas du tout. Nous pouvons tout à fait vivre avec cette proposition. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Now, Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to support the proposal of Colombia and to clarify that we had here in Yolis Bonva a problem with the connection. And that's why maybe some colleagues could not follow the last part of the meeting before the break. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Is the connection okay now?
Yes, now it is all right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I don't see any hand raised at this moment in time. So I'd like to declare in a way that this step 6 is agreed. Poland. Okay, sorry, Poland.
Thank you, and sorry, just one final remark. I am quite concerned with the title of step 6, because it is not about what is in the follow-up report to the committee, but actually what the committee is doing after the follow-up. So maybe we should reword the title of step 6. Thank you.
Perhaps it should be follow-up report to the committee and its decision. However, there is one loop, which you can then say we want to do it at another one. But if we put follow-up to the report to the committee and its decision, would that be okay?
Okay, thank you very much. That was a very important point. Any other views? Okay, well, now I don't see any hand raised, so therefore step 6 is agreed. And then with this, I would like to go back to step 4. Okay, the issue The only remaining issue is the last part, whether we should keep this maintain the element option in this part. Any views? Okay, Estonia? Okay, Estonia, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Estonia believes that it's important to keep this option of maintaining the element on the list. And I think the reasons were outlined by the legal advisor, and also I took good note of our discussions yesterday. And it is my understanding that that most of the participants were of opinion that if a legal advice does not object to maintaining the element, to the option of maintaining the element, then the room also supports it. So for this, I think that the committee is sovereign in its decisions that it makes for the humanity as a whole. And that's why I think it's important to keep the option of maintaining the element on the list. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Czechia, please.
Thank you, Chair. We do agree what Estonia just said. I have just one question. I don't know if it's concerning step 4 or step 6, actually. But my question is, if the state party asks for removal, and after the legal advisor's opinion, the committee maintained the element on the list, what happened with the safeguarding measures, which is actually the criterion R3? Who will be responsible for these safeguarding measures if the state party doesn't want to keep the element on the list? It should be considered somehow during the exam of the file of the case. It's just question for the Secretariat. Maybe if in step 6 we have paying attention on criteria R4, consentment of communities. Maybe in this consentment of communities, we understand that the communities will safeguard the element, but we just would like to have this clarification. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's a pertinent question, Mr. Curtis.
There's so many different cases which could appeal, but as you well know, it is the communities primarily who safeguard their element, and through the convention, there may be, the convention is there to encourage support from the state party, who has a responsibility to assist the communities in safeguarding their element, and the international community, because it is part of the heritage, the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Now, whether whose responsibility it is, my first guess would be it continues to be the state's responsibility to assist communities in safeguarding their heritage. Whether they actually carry out their responsibilities may have to be seen, but I think this is a rather, it's a bit difficult I mean, in a sense, according to the convention, it continues to be the state's responsibility, even if they wish it removed, because the state has made a commitment to humanity to safeguard this element. And I think that's the sense of the interpretation we receive from legal affairs. Does that answer your question? It is both, I would say, both the state concerned and the committee and the international community.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, Venezuela has asked for the floor.
And Portugal.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I want to also thank the information provided by Mr. Curtis addressing this concern. as of this moment, it does not seem feasible to have this pair as it is. Perhaps there's a way of moving forward in saying that of changing this so the proposal of removal is with the consent or the accompaniment of the community concerned, but you cannot hold accountable a state party who has requested to remove an item of the list and then request the process, because it's not only to safeguard it, but it's also then it's linked to the mechanisms to do the periodic reporting, etc. And there are only limited resources. So there is this issue of sovereignty. There is an issue of capability and availability. So perhaps there is a way of doing this, which is an accompaniment with the concerned community, however, but it cannot be imposed on states. And obviously this raises a concern. So I think as it is, it's not only problematic, but it's actually not feasible. And the planification of how states would go about it if they actually want to request an element to be removed from the list. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Now, Portugal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the point of this maintaining this maintain option or not, if I understand it well, if this is deleted, it would mean that at this first examination by the committee of a request to remove by a state party, the committee would not be able to take a final decision on maintaining the element. That is a possibility. I do not believe that it would go, that would not fit into the legal advice that we heard earlier this morning. Although we would prefer to keep this option in this step for the first examination by the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, okay, the situation, as I see it, it is a larger number of countries wanted to keep it. But Venezuela wanted to make sure that if this maintain option is taken, that has to be after the follow-up process, not immediately. That is my understanding, and there are reasons on both sides. But in terms of, so I would like to do it this way, because I heard the opposition to the inclusion of this particular option only from Venezuela. So can I ask if there are any other countries wanting to wanted to agree with Venezuela on this point? Okay, Thailand, do you have the floor? Madam, I can't hear you. Please.
Sorry,
Okay.
My intention is not to support or not to or to oppose Venezuela. My point here is that under the maintain paragraph, it reads maintain the element on the list if it considers that the information is complete. What does it mean here is complete? Because in the above dot, place the element, the first dot, place the element under the follow-up status if it considered that addition, the second dot, remove the element if it considers that the information is complete. That is the information submitted by the state. But here, the committee would decide to maintain the element if it considered the information is complete. What does it mean complete here? it cannot be complete if it's insufficient ground to remove. I think that the word complete here raises complication.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Curtis, on the particular point.
Yeah, just to say, I understand, in fact, the confusion and where it might come from. The confusion comes really from how we work in the evaluation body in terms of the recommendations of the evaluation body to the difference between refer and no. But it could read, if it considers that there is insufficient ground for removal and we can take out the information is complete, meaning that but when we say that, what it means is the committee is aware of all the issues related to all the criteria, including, for example, consent of communities, has the information it requires, but still decides that, that with all that information, it decides that there is not sufficient ground to remove the element. So it means the committee is making a fully informed decision when it decides not to remove the element. Otherwise, it can go to the follow-up status.
Mr. Chair, I would appreciate it if the wording is rephrased following Mr. Curtis' clarification. Thank you.
If we remove it, but I will express a concern, if I may, just if it's removed. If we take out that, then we are removing reference to information on the criteria. We're giving more power to the committee to remove it in that sense. If we take out, if it considers the information is complete, that means the committee can remove it even if it's not really fully informed, meaning it doesn't know whether the consent of the community is there or whether it corresponds to Article 2 or there's an issue with Article 2 of the Convention. So this is why we believe it's not irrelevant to have that part of the sentence. But it can be removed, of course, if the room wishes. Thank you.
Well, okay, let's have a structured discussion because we have to decide whether we want to keep this option or not first. And if we decide to keep it, perhaps we should get into the language. But at this moment, my call, in fact, is whether there is any delegation. Okay, sorry. Chile, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. C'est la première fois que je parle, donc je vais saluer à vous et à tous les membres. Simplement pour dire que nous, en principe, et après le problème qu'on a eu de connexion Internet, nous sommes tentés d'être d'accord avec le Venezuela dans le sens que l'État doit être considéré dans tout le processus. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
So can I take it mean that you support Venezuela? Okay, thank you very much.
Oui.
Thank you. So we have Venezuela and Chile, and we have Lithuania, Czechia, having completely different options. Any other views? Okay, now I give the floor to Venezuela, followed by Hungary. Venezuela, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'm sorry for perhaps reopening the debate in this. For us, again, it's problematic as it stands. Again, it's not feasible on the burden that this would imply for the states. However, trying to move forward and see, perhaps a way of move forward is considering the wording that Colombia presented before the break, we're not just to see it in writing, perhaps it would be a way of allowing for the process to be longer to evaluate and ensure that all the parties involved are satisfied with the delisting removal procedure if it's necessary. But again, unnecessary, not a necessary burden, but as my colleague from Chile said, the request of round of removal from a member state is not an easy decision, and it should be respected again. And because this in the end also entails on the state's ability to plan and the course of actions that they do in order to attend to the different elements that are inscribed, etc. So perhaps either rewording it or at least looking into the wording that Colombia proposed before the break, we could move forward with that. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Curtis may have some ideas on that.
I think now we are coming to the language of the text, and it's also linked to perhaps the way it's formulated, which is not clear as Thailand Thailand indicated. If I understand, there is also a concern about this is really issues to deal with R1 and R4, or Article 2 of the Convention, R1 being intangible heritage as defined under Article 2 of the Convention, and R4 being the consent of communities. So perhaps this would satisfy everyone. Maintain the element on the list if it considers that the information is complete, paying particular attention to R1 and R4. Comma. Or we could say in particular in relation, sorry, it's better, in particular in relation to R1 and R4. And that there is, then I think it sounds better if you put, and that there is insufficient ground for removal. In that sense, what we are saying, as I understand it, if the community, yes, this is how I would, how it might address the language as put forward by Colombia. Thank you. Otherwise, we could just be in particular in relation to Article 2. That would be also another way of putting it. Thank you. Yes, sorry, I'm just been pointing out, if we have R1, we should have U1, and if we have R4, we should have U4, correct? Or Article 2 of the Convention.
Thank you very much. No, it's actually an option. Either R1, U1, and R4, U4, or alternatively, Article 2 of the Convention. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, with that suggestion in mind, Hungary, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First of all, at the outset, I would like to reiterate my support for this paragraph of maintaining the element on the list. Especially having heard the legal advice this morning, the case is now clear. There is no legal opposition against this paragraph. All the more its legal opposition supports this point. As for the suggestions, the amendments presented just now by Mr. Curtis, I would strongly support those as well. My preference would be for R1, U1 and R4, U4 rather than Article 2 of the Convention, because Article 2 doesn't specifically cover R4 and U4. So in this case, I think it's better to specify the relevant criteria rather than the Article 2 of the Convention. And just one attempt as for the problem suggested by Thailand. What if we replace the word complete with sufficient? If it said, considers that the information is sufficient instead of complete, would that solve Thailand's problem? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for good suggestions. Czechia, please.
Thank you, Chair. We don't have a different view. After the legal advisor's explanation, we are in favor to keep the option of maintaining the element on the list. Our only concern is regarding the safeguarding measures, because they are in very heart of our convention. But we listened the explanation of Tim Curtis, and maybe in this paragraph we can mention it, in particular in relation to criteria, safeguarding measures, or Article 2 of the Convention, if it's a good proposal for everyone. That's all. Thank you.
On va aller vers la CG pour voir ce qu'il faut faire concrètement.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, there is no sound for anyone.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear me. If anybody can hear me, please indicate. Yes, okay. Now, Mr.
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, what about my microphone? Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yes, can hear.
Okay, good, great. So I wanted to give the floor to Venezuela, followed by Lithuania. Venezuela, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Again, I don't want to be the source of problem. And Venezuela, when we list an item, we do not look to remove something, an element. But this is based on reality and understanding how member states operate. At this moment, as it is, it's easier to leave the organization than to remove an element of the list. And that shows that there's a problem. Again, I request perhaps that if Colombia could present their proposal of with the drafting, because it changed from maintaining, I think, to somewhat of a follow-up. And also this, I think, another aspect that if there's continues on the list, at least while the discussions are happening, etc. I mean, in the hypothetical case of a removal, request of removal, there has to be also a bullet point or something that establishes a somewhat a sort of a dialogue between the state party concerned and the secretary, because if there is a request for removal, it obliges to something, and it also obliges or to a need, a desire, a problems that they're having to ensuring safeguarding or keeping it. But there are situations that are aspects. So just establishing and mandating on a member on a state party to maintain an item, even though they're requesting to remove it, is not feasible. Will not ensure that the safeguarding measures and the planning will actually be considered. So this is why I think at this moment, this para as it stands is problematic. We have to be realistic on how it would be implemented, how it would be actually taken by the state parties concerned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, something has to be done on that. Okay, I'll give the floor to Lithuania first because it's in order, but Colombia is also raising hands, so maybe you can help us later. But first to Lithuania.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that we are also flexible, and especially with this amendment of mentioning the criteria R1 and R4, but some doubts still persist because especially speaking about these reasons mentioned by Czechia, also about this plan of safeguarding, because we speak here in fact about very rare cases, about extra situations, and I understand the principle and the reason why this it is very important to keep this position, but the dialogue with the state, which is the main partner of the convention, and the state as a state party, and which take responsibility to implement safeguarding plans, I think it's very important. So it just I think nobody would like that it somehow become kind of system that we keep or we inscribe something without state parties willingness or responsibilities, because it's very important. So, but anyway, we are flexible and we support this position with amendments with criteria. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. In reality, we're not very different from, I mean, we are not apart from each other. We are very close and we are looking at the realities. So what we need is a fine suggestion, textual suggestion, and Colombia is very willing to help. Colombia, please.
Very willing, Mr. Chair. And what I would say is that since yesterday we had such a lengthy discussion on this, most of us, including actually me, were flexible about leaving the maintaining element. But what I would suggest is, I think this is a process which consists on 6 stages. This is the middle of the stages. So I believe everyone who was in the committee in COM 14 agrees that removing an element from the list is not an easy decision. It's not nice. It's not, we all would have liked to have more time to discuss, or maybe even to give more opportunity to the state party to change things. So in that sense, what I suggest very kindly is that we could kind of, I mean, the legal advisor already said that we can leave maintain here. It can be the case. There are cases who are easier, so we can leave it. Otherwise, anyways, as I said before, there is the first bullet, the follow-up, which is very nicely. And I don't know if maybe the Secretariat can remind us of how long actually these 6 stages is in time. But I think we all could agree that in this middle stage, it can keep in a follow-up. That means that we maintain. Anyways, there will be a maintain. But otherwise, if not, I would kindly ask Venezuela and Chile to just be flexible and leave maintain. And I mean, I don't think it has to be that detailed in this stage if we are giving all the details of the criteria, etc., on stage 6. So to be again very short, we know it's a difficult decision. I think we don't have to haste the decision, and in that sense, we can leave the maintain the element on the list without no problem. Otherwise, there is the follow-up. So if we can compromise to leave everything as it is and close this debate and follow, because we have a whole other document to analyze in which most of us are very interested in, that could be done. But since we have the legal advice already giving us the answer from yesterday, I think we have to move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I hope I was helpful.
Well, perhaps, yes, I fully understand. I fully understand your view, but at the same time, I'm not sure as to what I should be doing. But perhaps 2 helps offered so far, one from Kuwait and one from the Secretariat. So let's go for the ambassador of Kuwait first, and then to. Okay. Anyway, Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, try to find a way out of this. Like our colleague said, taking this decision is not easy, and I'm talking about a committee member. That's why the reason we put the follow-up at the beginning. So the committee, if they have any doubt, they go with the follow-up before to go to the maintain. And from reality, committee members always take a decision, to be very safe, and they'll always take the lengthiest, more secure option. So this is from experience. I think also, to have Venezuela's concern, if we go up to the beginning of the paragraph 4, please. If we go to the beginning, if we can, with the Secretary can help us, if we can strengthen, the beginning of the paragraph, information received and reply from state parties. If we can strengthen the language here to have more dialogue, more, just strengthening the information. This will, take the concentration of Venezuela. There will have been truly dialogue between the member states and the committee and the secretariats. So, Tim and his team can suggest any strengthening the dialogue from the beginning of the paragraph. This will ensure Venezuela there was been a good discussion and dialogue, and that will take away the worry about the option of maintaining. So we can keep maintain the option, but strengthening the wording at the beginning of the paragraph. That's my suggestion.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Curtis.
Yeah, I think we can provide wording. I'm just a little bit worried because these are different steps. Okay, so step 3, there was already some gathering of information, and there was including through the various. That was a step 3. If you guys to understand that, so there's been a process in step 3. There's been a bureau that's decided let's put this on the agenda of the committee, and it goes to the committee. Therefore, there's still the option, and this is why the option of going for the full follow-up status here in this step. So do we repeat the follow-up status in the first part? This is, this is giving the committee the options, but I'm not quite sure. Otherwise, that's automatically the follow-up. That's what the whole point of the first point is. I wonder if I may. I wonder if, okay, under the last point, if we put in exceptional cases, maintain the element. Meaning it would be very rare at this stage to maintain. and considering, and also we could add Article 1 or Article 1 and 2 of the convention.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, right now, I want to give my observation, but before that, because I'm still thinking about it, Colombia, can you help us more?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to remind also everyone that I mean, this stage, I was speaking before of stage 3, and actually we are in stage 4, sorry. But since it's stage 4, after only a preliminary verification. So I think it really needs more processes. And as the ambassador of Kuwait said, we would surely take the long, more timing, more information. We always need more information to take this kind of decisions. So I think what Tim said, in exceptional cases, that could be a nice compromise. And anyways, and I remind you all, this is a middle stage of the decision. So the interesting thing is actually the stage 5, I have it in French, the suivi approfondi de l'étape 5. So that is where the real information about the situation of the element will be. So I don't know why we keep discussing this part, since after we have a whole lot of things. So what I would suggest is to keep this option that Mr. Curtis just told us. I think it's a nice compromise, and just move further to the stage 6. And so we can, or we already, you know, like let's have this done. I think it's a very nice compromise, and it will be very good if we can move on. Thank you very much.
Okay, so yes, I've been inclined to take the advice from you, Colombia, to make a progress here. So we will leave it there. In exceptional cases, maintain the element on the list if. Do we need if? I mean, okay, anyway, what is important is to move on to 6, the same criteria in 6 to have more precise wording there. Okay, well, let's leave it there and then move on to step 6.
Mr. Chair, and sorry, because I had a question that actually it was an answer. How long does the 6 stages take? Like, how long does the whole process would take?
Okay, Tim?
The committee will decide how much time it will need.
Okay.
Okay, so under step 5, the committee will determine a session at which this issue should come back. It could be the next session, it could be in 3 sessions, it could be in 5. This is the proposal.
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm beginning to think that, you know, maintain the element may not have to be there in step 4, because, you know, this will be a very difficult decision in any case, particularly when we know that third party consent wants to remove it. How can we safeguard the element there? So in that sense, I'm having an impression that, yes, if the room can agree with the formulation proposed by Tim in exceptional cases, but it's not really important. What is important in the end is whether the element is safeguarded. So in that sense, can we just go to step 6? I thought I closed the debate there, but nonetheless, there's a need to look at that again. That's step 6, the last. Yeah, okay. So that's This is where I have been doing chair's work for quite some time on different occasions, but I'm actually quite confused now. Well, so I think I need clear advice here from the room. Are we going to talk about step 6 again, or, okay, Colombia, I think I need to be more clear about your suggestion.
Okay, so I'm going to be bold about it, but I don't know what the others will say, because if it's too much, maybe we can, but what about if stage 4, we just suggest that, I mean, if we simplify stage 4 and all the complex bullets are only in step 6, would that be viable, or would that be a disaster for the debate?
Well, in any case, we have to discuss this maintenance option somewhere. So can I, just to be clear, are you suggesting that you want to have more precise, more lengthy language on the last part, maintain the element? Is that what you want? Okay.
Yeah, what I'm suggesting is that you keep step 4 kind of follow-up or just follow-up. And then you decide after the proper analysis if yes or not. But I don't know if I'm killing the discussion.
Well, you don't need to touch on remove in stage 4.
But you know, Mr. President, if we are in stage 4, if the committee can remove, it should be able to maintain them. We cannot keep one and not keep the other, because I guess legally it's the same. No, if you are able to remove, you are able to maintain. So I think we are kind of in the same thing. So, or we simplify very much, or we just agree on that this is a 2-step process, which for simple cases can end in step 4, and for complex cases can end in step 6, whether it is removal or whether it is to maintain. That would be my suggestion. Okay. Or simplify the process as if it was only 1-step thing. Do I make?
Yeah, but if I may, there is a certain degree of difference. Legally, it's the same. As you say, it's the same. But on the other hand, agreeing to remove the list in line with the state request, that's easier. But maintaining the list despite the state request is more difficult. So there's a certain difference between the two. So keeping the removal there while removing the maintain option there makes certain sense. But anyway, I want to hear more views. So Venezuela to be followed by Thailand. Venezuela, please.
This is getting confusing a little bit. Indeed, I do think perhaps that the para on maintaining, as with the observations made by, or the suggestion made by my Mr. Curtis, could perhaps be more, would be better represented here. It's one of the things I think I do agree with this. I also agree with you, Chair, that evidently removing something that is with the consent of the member states is easier than maintaining something in spite of the wishes of the member states, evidently. And the thing is that because it says it's a multi-step process, but the maintaining it says basically, if the decision, even if in exceptional cases, it's the closure of the process, even though there's still other possible steps. So it's just in this regard, I just would consult is if it would be necessary to include another sentence or another bullet point, or if not even necessary, it's open to interpretation, to include something that the concerned member state is able to reintroduce their request for removal at a later stage, addressing the concerns of the committee. This is not wording or anything, but I think it would allow perhaps to continue on a process that facilitates the dialogue and interaction with the state party concerned and the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go on the list of speakers and then go for my observation. Thailand, please.
Thank you, Chair. Considering that the legal advisor already stated that it's in the mandate of the committee to maintain the element in spite of the request of the member state, but that there is a question raised by previous speakers that then who would safeguard the element if the member state requested the deletion. I think we should introduce a paragraph or bullet point prior to the maintain bullet point. That the committee should initiate a negotiation with the state party concerned about the insufficient ground found by the committee and the decision not to delete the element from the list, and therefore get the acceptance or the appreciation of the member state that the element should be maintained, and then give it some time, and then you can have the last paragraph on the maintain as the end of the procedure. I think we should respect the sovereignty of the member state as well, in spite of the legality of the committee to decide against its request. So I think it would be nice to for the committee to negotiate or to have a discussion with the member state concerned prior to making the decision to maintain the element in spite of the request of the member state. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Other? No, I cannot see it. I cannot see those two. Okay, Lithuania and Portugal, and then I want to, because I have to stop at 1, so I want to offer my observations after 2 delegations. So Lithuania first, then Portugal. Lithuania, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to say that we appreciate very much this amendment by Mr. Curtis with dans des cas exceptionnels, in exceptional cases. I think that it resolves very much the wording itself of this position, and I think it's really much more clear about the main principle of the statement. But also we would like to join that to the delegation of Thailand that was said just now about the need of initiation of dialogue with the state party. I think it would be really in the spirit of the convention to try to try the dialogue process and to try to convince the state somehow to find a consensus, kind of common decision. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. But we would like to support this maintain statement just with dans des cas exceptionnels. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, Portugal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We also strongly support this bullet point as amended by Mr. Curtis. exceptional cases. We heard the concerns of several delegations, including more recently Thailand, on safeguarding. I would, maybe I could suggest the following. If we consider in this first examination of by the committee of a request by a member state to distinguish between the lists, because indeed, I mean, if it is an element from the list of urgent safeguarding, this is a different situation. But if it is indeed an element from the representative list of intangible cultural heritage of the humanity, in exceptional cases, at this stage of the process, the committee should have the option to decide to maintain the element. That maybe is not completely the case if it is an element from the list of urgent safeguarding. So I would suggest amending this bullet point in that sense. So in exceptional cases, maintain the element on the list, the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity, if it considers that the information is sufficient, in particularly to in relation to criteria R1, R4, etc. So that will be the suggestion. And finally, really to pledge to everyone to accept with the amendments this bullet point. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I'm sorry for this. I don't, it's not really my principle to do this. But I have, you know, I think I have been chairing meetings on different occasions. I have never done this. But after hearing the views, I have a view of my own, which is not necessarily the same as the ones expressed here. You know, we heard that from Thailand, there's a need for a process of consultations. Yes, of course. And also from Portugal, there's a need to differentiate two different lists. Yes, of course, all of those are relevant points. But all of those suggestions mean that we have to go in a very cautious way when it comes to the question of removal against the wishes, the question of maintaining it against the wishes of the state party. Now, I would like to draw your attention to the discussions we had on another part of this stage 4. That is, in other cases, can you go down a little bit? Yes, this is the one. In other cases, we have only two options: maintain the element or place it under follow-up status. The rationale for this was that the party concerned wants to maintain it, but somebody else wants to remove it. So in those cases, we have to take a very cautious step. The first option available is to maintain it or place it under follow-up. We don't have removal option. In that sense, in the same way here, you know, given the complex issues and given the need for consultations, given the need to differentiate the list, yes, all of those things are very relevant. So for that reason, the committee should not take a hasty decision. So I don't do this usually, but can I just ask if we can remove this maintain option from this step 4 in the same way as we did in relation to other cases, because this action goes against the wishes of the state party. We're not quite sure about what kind of safeguarding measures are in place. So we take more time. In short, we take more time. So here, the option is to place it under follow-up or remove it. And then in case the committee wishes to look into the possibility of maintaining it, yes, consultations may be necessary, and also the evaluation body assessment will be necessary, and other kind of informal consultations can also take place. So don't be in a hurry on this one. My suggestion would be to eliminate the maintenance option from step 4, and we take more time as a result of that. And then we may be able to discuss a bit more about step 6, but I'm not sure whether that is necessary or not. But in any case, as far as step 4 is concerned, can we just remove can you just remove the option of maintaining the list on the spot? That would be my suggestion. And would that be a possibility? I would just like to ask that question to avoid all sorts of complicated discussions in trying to keep this maintenance option here. Okay, Ambassador Quaid, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree with you with taking this conservative approach. It's gonna happen very rare, and so I'm with you on this. So we can remove the maintain and move forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your kind words. Any other views? Okay, Lithuania, please.
We support strongly your proposal because we thought that the committee anyway can take a decision, kind of exceptional decision to maintain some element, but it would be a kind of a new point of agenda or just like exceptional point to discuss. The committee has this right, so we can just not put it in here, but this possibility will persist anyway in the future, I think. Thank you very much.
Yes, very much so. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, we support your proposal, having understood that it's important to go further. For us, the important point is to have the possibility and the follow-up, the possibility of maintaining later on the element. This possibility has to be present during the process at a certain stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In this particular case, I don't see any hand raised, which is good for me. But if there's anybody who wishes to argue against what I said, please do it now. Okay, Hungary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I must admit I'm a bit puzzled by where we are going now. Yesterday, we stopped and said that we need legal advice on this issue. And if the legal advice is concurring with maintaining option, then we will maintain it. Now we had the legal advice that was clear, that said that the committee was sovereign about the list, and that the list belonged in some way to humanity as a whole, and for the concern of intangible cultural heritage for humanity as a whole, then it follows logically, as the legal advice pointed out, that the maintaining option should be kept. Now, I don't really see why we would disregard that legal opinion and delete the maintaining option. So I would really like to keep this maintaining option with the formulation that the Secretariat offered, with exceptional circumstances, and with R1, U1, and R4 and U4 criteria specified. That's our position, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Venezuela, and after Venezuela, Mr. Curtis, but Venezuela, please.
Thank you, Chair. We can go along with your last proposal. I think it responds to what we have been trying to address. Yes, the committee is sovereign, but member states, parties are also sovereign. So what we're trying is to establish a mechanism that is amicable, allows for dialogue, and not to take any hasty decisions. So I think it would be best to go as you proposed, and then find a wording that allows, obviously, in case that it's in exceptional cases, but probably later on in the process, to maintain something, but also to maintain an element in a way that is actually feasible, that's safeguarding and all the procedures and all to ensure the capability of the member state to respond and to all the responsibilities acquired when an element is inscribed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curtis.
Yeah, just to explain and also perhaps to address, just to explain in terms of also the comment by Hungary, I understand now that the removal of this maintenance in step 4 is not the removal of the possibility of the committee to maintain the element. It means the committee has the choice of removing as the wish is, or it requires a follow-up status. After which, as long as it stays in step 6, the committee still has the authority to maintain the element as its prerogative is, as was given the advice of legal affairs. So this is not the final end, if that is the case. It's a procedural. I don't know if that clarifies, but there is a step 6, which means this would go to step 5, which would then go to step 6. At that stage, the committee maintains its mandate, if you will, to maintain the element having gone through step 5. I understand that is now the proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, it is my proposal. And my colleague from Hungary, yes, I think my idea was exactly the same as yours. But today I heard that so many people wanted to have more cautious steps, and also there are a lot of suggestions for making things very detailed at this stage. I mean, in step 4. So going in that direction wouldn't end our discussions. So if most of the people in the room want to take a very cautious approach, perhaps we can remove that element from step 4 and we do it in step 6. That is my suggestion. So yes, your idea was absolutely the same as mine yesterday. But after hearing many people, there was a shift in my mind. With that, Colombia.
No, you expressed, Mr. Chair, exactly what I was going to say. So that's why I lowered my hand, because this is actually a 6-step process. So it's all right to have that final decision if it's okay for everyone, and to really have this process in a 6-step and not in a 4-step basis.
Okay, thank you very much. So once again, I'd like to ask if there is any delegation which is against what I have proposed. I don't see any hand raised, right? Okay, well, thank you very much. So as far as step 4 is concerned, perhaps we can remove country names and also remove the maintenance option. Yeah, we will come up with a cleaner version later for your approval. So, no, 6, we need it. We need it in 6. Yeah, okay. Now here, let me settle the final question. We do have references in criteria R1, U1, and also R4, U4. in here, in the chapeau, right? And then, so in that sense, I have an impression that we don't have to have another language in relation to the maintenance option. So if that is agreeable, or this has been agreed, but I just want to make sure that room agrees that because those things are already mentioned in the chapeau part, maybe we don't need to repeat something like that, in maintenance option there. Okay, Venezuela, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the R1 and R4 are included there. However, I think it still should be included the reference to in exceptional cases.
Just to be clear, where did you want to put it?
In reference to the maintain and the elements of that aspect that it was in the was drafted, that it said in exceptional cases decides to maintain an element on the list or something. I think it should that wording should be included there, because this is not in the preamble of the step 6.
Okay, on that specific point, any views? No? Okay, no hand raised, so let's go for that. So can we also remove the country names? So in next exceptional cases, maintain the element on the list. Yes, okay, thank you. Japan, do you have a problem with it?
I'm very sorry, but the step 6 is also applying to the request from other parties. And I was just wondering, as we agreed to maintain for the other parties, it shouldn't, like, as it's applied for both. I just wondered, do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, the situation is a little bit complicated, but yes, that is true. This one is also applicable to other cases. We have been thinking about the case where the committee may maintain the element in spite of the wishes of the state party, but there's another one. The committee may want to eliminate the element in spite of the wishes of the state party to maintain it. Yes, so it should be neutral.
Yes, I just have a problem with in exceptional cases, just because it should be neutral. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, the choice is like this. In exceptional cases, shall we put it on both cases, not just maintain, but also remove, or we don't have them for either? Okay, Portugal, to be followed by Venezuela. Portugal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm afraid we will find it really difficult to accept this mentioning here of exceptional cases, not just for the point raised by Japan, but as a principle. I mean, these are the options in the very final stage of the process. So it is up to the committee to decide fully with all options without the need to point to exceptionalities. That would be fit for an intermediate stage, but that is already solved. So we would really not favor this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Venezuela, to be followed by Brazil. Venezuela.
Thank you very much, Chair. I want to express my thanks to the observation made by the delegate of Japan. Yes, I think in mind, I was still thinking of the previous, and it's correct. In this case, I guess in exceptional cases does not really apply. However, as the distinguished delegate from Portugal establishes, we're here at the end of the process, then I think we're missing a bullet point, and it was something that along the lines of a bullet point or a sentence along the lines of what the delegate of Thailand had mentioned, regarding that we have to here make some part of process establishes a dialogue with the state party concerned in which the element is and where the element is described, to ensure the actual safeguarding if it's decided to be maintained, or and to take steps forward to ensure the possibility to respond as is expected. So in any case, perhaps it's something that could be added to the end, so as to allow for a better transition. Thank you.
Okay, Brazil to be followed by Colombia. Please be aware that we have 10 more minutes before the lunch break. So Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very briefly, just to thank Japan and Portugal for their observations, and to say that really this in exceptional cases, it seems that it's not the case. When we think of this possibility, the possibility that state requires the removal of an element, and after a certain examination, the committee or the evaluation body thinks that it's not the case, we only imagine a certain situation of conflict between the state and the community. And we all know that intangible heritage elements, manifestations, they normally last for many decades. And sometimes a certain government can change if perhaps there's a conflict in a certain moment with a certain government and that community, but few years later, this conflict doesn't exist anymore. So to avoid this kind of possibilities, we should not mention in exceptional cases and just leave maintain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, okay. Let's structure the discussion. We have 7 more minutes to go. I'm absolutely determined to finish this by that time in 7 minutes. Now, I'd like to make a suggestion. Given the discussion here, exceptional cases should go anyway. Those things should go. So please don't make any points about this. Venezuela was indicating some additions towards the end, but in any case, we should get rid of exceptional, cases. So don't make points on that anymore. If you can just comment on what Venezuela suggested, that's very welcome. So from that perspective, Colombia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What Venezuela suggested is what we do in step 5. So I don't think we have to repeat it again, since step 5 is the suivi approfondi. So we don't have to repeat it here since it's the next step. So I would suggest that we can leave it here, and yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your very good suggestion. In that case, once again, can I ask if there is any delegation, after hearing all those points made, Is there any delegation who is still against this formulation which is shown on the screen at this moment? Step 6. Okay, I don't see any hand raised. Thank you very much. And this part, I think, is agreed. So, I think that's is that the end of removal thing? Okay, well, thank you. Then we have to discuss the extension part. We have 4 minutes, so this is, can I have a minute? Okay, well, in that case, I will give the floor to Mr. Curtis to explain what it is in this extension thing in 3 or 4 minutes, and then the discussions will take place in the afternoon. Mr. Curtis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The next table, which you have, is the proposed revised procedure for inscription on an extended basis, meaning the inclusion of more states into an already existing multinational file, which we, as you will know, the current situation is if a group of states are part of a joint file and other states wish to join that file, the file must be redone in its entirety and all states must redo the file. We were asked by the committee to find a simpler way of including other states on an extended basis, and this is the proposal to do that. What it is saying, just to the step first, there's an we don't like the word upstream, we heard yesterday, so we will call it pre-submission actions, I imagine, that will come. So the pre-submission actions were about how states wish to inform and be informed on the website of the convention. This is an option that was created several years ago for states to advertise, if you will, on our convention, their intention and their willingness to invite others. And there is an option to provide some technical assistance should states wish in order to help with the preparation of the file. Now, what it is proposed is the original lead state remains the original lead state, but it is to the newly joining states who are required to demonstrate that their inclusion in the extension justifies all the required criteria. So the new states don't need to go again and justify an R1 and an R2 and an R3 and an R, well, we'll get to the which ones, except R4 and R5. So there's no need to reproduce all of that paperwork for all of the pre-existing states. However, the joining states still have to do it. Nevertheless, and this was the results of many discussions with the experts in the consultation process, it is important that the communities who were originally involved in the putting together of the multi-country, multi-state nomination are aware of, have their prior free and informed consent of the newly joining communities. So there is still some obligation for the original states, if you will, on this nomination to provide under R4 or U4, I don't think we have multinational urgent safeguarding, but provide under criterion 4 to provide demonstration of free, prior and informed consent of those original communities to the inclusion of the new communities. So there is still some work in that sense for the original states, but much less than has been the case until now. And so step 1B explains how that process would happen, and then the evaluation would happen after that. I think I'll just leave it at that. And it's to explain the process. Yeah. There is a no, that's right. I will leave it.
Okay.
Sorry, we have also received an amendment and we will go up. I'd like the colleagues to receive, and indeed we hadn't thought of this when we first drafted it, but it's an important issue. And there is a request, can you please go and show the proposed amendment, which we received from Kuwait, that the working group requests the Secretariat to propose to the 16th session of the Intergovernmental Committee a procedure and accordingly draft amendments to the operational directives for inscriptions on a reduced basis in a similar manner to the recommendations made by the working group for inscriptions on an extended basis. So, of course, it may be the case that a state wishes to withdraw from a multinational nomination, and the current provisions would require all states to withdraw. So there here is a request to consider what, and we haven't got the steps now, so we are being requested in time for the committee to work on the similar steps in the other sense, in the sense where if a state wishes to withdraw, to have a similar procedure and more simplified procedure so that one state, if you will, may detach without necessarily all states detaching. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with those explanations, a debate will take place in the afternoon from 2:30. Thank you very much. Have a good lunch.